I poured my Rebel in a glass.
Well, aren't you just the fancy pants of the bunch?
Well, I didn't like drinking it out of it was bothering my lip.
I still have this
Mm.
stupid thing. Got it. 3 more of these things.
Mm.
Not that it's bad, but I've had Rebel and
Yeah.
now I don't have it.
Now you're spoiled.
It's fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
Everything's fine.
I'll live. All right, here we go. And we are starting. Hello, friends, and welcome to the Activity Continues podcast. We are your hosts, Amy, that's me, and Megan.
Hey, everybody. How are you?
We discuss episodes of the Travel Channel's TV show, The Dead Files. This week, Megan will be recapping Season 5, Episode 9, The Perfect Storm, which aired originally on June 27th, 2015.
And Amy is covering Season 7, Episode 13, which is on Discovery Plus, and it's Episode 14 on Hulu, called The Offering, and that originally aired March 11th of 2017.
Yep. And I looked at why it's off on Hulu, because, the problem earlier was that, in Season 1 anyway, was that there was an extra episode on Discovery than there was on Hulu. And that isn't the case in what is the Season 7. That's not the case. The case is that Hulu numbered them wrong. There is no number 10. So it goes from 9 to 11, and there's all the episodes are the same.
Right.
They just numbered them wrong.
Those bastards.
So Hulu needs to get their shit together on
Hulu,
that.
if the CEO is listening, which obviously he is, or she,
Of course. Big fan.
get it together.
Yeah,
He should be
together.
a big fan. We're hilarious.
While we're asking people to get it together, I would like to have a word with Discovery Plus about why, when I'm watching the show, it acts like it's going to go to commercial, and then it goes to the commercial for like 2 seconds, and then it bounces back to the show, and then it goes back to the commercial.
Yeah, that
I'm really
happens
annoyed
to
with
me.
that.
It doesn't happen to me on Discovery Plus because I'm ritzy and I pay the extra $1 for no commercials.
Oh.
But it does happen to us when we watch Hulu.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yep. It'll go to a commercial, and then it'll be like a commercial for like 10 seconds, and then it'll go back to the show for like 15 seconds, and then it'll go back to a commercial for like 10 minutes. And I'm like,
people need to get their
Hulu.
shit together.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. Because,
we
we get Hulu Live.
Oh, yeah.
We still have commercials. I know. We don't pay for no commercials.
But John and we paid for no commercials, and we still had commercials.
Yep.
They were just less. And I'm like, the fuck are we paying for then?
Yeah, it is ridiculous. There are some shows and some networks that refuse to let Hulu take out the commercials or whatever. So even if you sign up for the commercial free one, you're still getting commercials.
Lame.
Yeah.
Quick interjection. So our daycare provider texted me today, and she was like, we need you to come get your kids. We have a family emergency. So I get home, and Jordan took a 2.5-hour nap. He doesn't normally sleep that long. So he slept from 2:30 to 5. I had to go wake him up.
Oh my gosh. He was tuckered.
Yeah, I know. I think he might be growing. I hope so, because we went to the doctor on Monday, and he's the 6th percentile in weight and the 8th percentile in height. So a career in the NBA is out.
Maybe he could be a jockey.
That's what I'm thinking. Either that or a pitcher, because his left arm, he throws, and I tell you what, it goes. So
right. Okay, good.
I'm hoping that. So
baseball players make a lot of money.
I know. Listen, I'm saying. And there's not a lot of danger in it like there's in football, which he's never, ever going to play.
Never, never, never.
Over my dead body will that kid play football.
Right. Let's hope he doesn't like it.
Yeah. Well, even if he does, I'll be like, listen, kid, life's full of disappointments. We're going to start you early.
We can't all be what we want to be.
No. I wanted to be a veterinarian, and then I realized I'd have to tell people their pets had to die, and I couldn't do that.
Yep. I did the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I only wanted to be on the good side of being a vet. I didn't want to. I wanted to make animals and people feel better. I just didn't. There's no way. I don't think there's any way I could administer.
But I couldn't tell it. I couldn't tell them. I couldn't tell the families and not cry with them.
Yeah.
Like I would have to cry with them.
Yeah.
There's no way I can go out and tell somebody their cat of 20 years is now dead and be like stone-faced about it.
Yeah. No. No, you probably would get more desensitized over time, but then that's
Mhm.
icky too,
Yeah.
But I have had vets cry with me,
Mhm. When I had to
and
put
that's
my
fine.
kids
I don't have a problem with
yeah.
that.
No, that just shows that they're human
Right.
and they can relate to you. Actually, it's better. Anyway, speaking of animals, so at work today, so when we have a new person start, we always do like a welcome meeting.
Mhm.
And to keep it from being super boring, I come up with different questions like if you could be a mythological creature, what would you be? Or would you rather go ahead in time and meet your descendants or go back in time and meet your ancestors and, fun stuff like that?
Mhm. Mhm.
And so today's question was, if you had to replace your legs with the legs of any animal, what legs would you pick? And I had so many fun, like so many pieces of information about animals that everyone was like, you should have been a veterinarian. And I'm like,
Ah,
listen, I watch a lot of nature shows.
yeah, you do.
I do, which is, it's tough because nature's brutal. Like it is
Uh-huh.
fucking brutal.
It
There's
is.
a bird that has 2 babies, and whichever baby is the strongest, it feeds, and then it lets the other one die.
Oh, geez.
I think it's a really ugly bird too. I mean, not birds are all kind of ugly, but it's like a stork, like
Oh,
a long-billed stork or something.
okay.
Yeah, so 2 eggs, one of the chicks bullies the other one until the
Nice.
mom is like, "Oh, you're the strong one, and I'll feed you."
That seems like sending the wrong message.
Yeah. Nature's brutal. Anyway, sorry, I got
Yeah.
us off on a discovery nature tangent.
Well,
I don't
that's
know where
okay.
that came from, but we went from vets to nature to birds to
It's
animal
okay.
legs. I chose an emu animal leg for the really
Oh,
long claw in the middle.
ah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So
Do you follow the Useless Farm on TikTok?
no, but now I'm going
Oh, you're
to.
gonna have to, because there's a woman. It's her TikTok, and she has a farm. She has
Is
chickens
it the
and
2 is it the 2 emus and one emu's a Karen?
yes, yes,
How do you know? Then I might follow her. I didn't know that was the name of the farm, the
yeah.
account, but that Karen charges her and she just puts her on
I
out.
know.
I would be shitting everything I'd eaten in the last week.
I know. And she just is like, Karen.
She's like, "Karen, fucking back, step back." And Karen's like or whatever emu
She did
sounds, I don't
one,
know.
yeah. She did one video where Karen was coming right at the camera, and it was terrifying. Like her beak came
Fucking
right
big.
in my face, and it was
Yes.
terrifying.
And she's just like, "Listen, like, what?
Yeah.
What's the
So
other one's name?" There's 2 of them. There's the one
Stanley, I
that
think, is the other one.
Stanley, yeah.
He's a sweetheart.
Yes.
So you have to watch her most recent ones because Karen got a hat. They have like a little knit hat they put on her.
Okay.
She's a different bird.
Is she?
Mhm.
Okay.
You gotta
I
see it.
saw I saw the one where she fed them each a carrot and Karen tried to eat her finger. And I was like, that is such a Karen thing to do. Like,
Such
I
a
know Karen,
bitch.
like we're best friends.
Yeah.
But you know what? I wouldn't be best friends with Karen because she's a fucking
Not
bitch.
that Karen. No,
Not that Karen.
she's something else.
She got a toot, as my husband says.
A
He likes to,
dude.
yeah, he likes to say, why do you have such a toot? And I'm like, you are lame.
Oh, funny.
Like, he's like, check your toot at the door. I'm like, okay,
Okay. All right.
all right. You, you.
So one thing I wanted to mention, I spent most of today not doing what I was supposed to be doing. What I was supposed to be doing is setting up the sound and trying to figure out how to get the best sound to
Mhm.
work and everything. And instead I was like, oh, I think I'll just remix the promo I made last week
Okay,
and make it a little bit more interesting. So
obviously.
to back up for those who don't know, we are doing a little promo exchange with another podcast called Haunted or Hoax.
Hmm.
And so we created a promo and they created a promo. We traded them and we're now putting their promo in the middle of our show as sort of like an ad, but it's not really an ad. And then they're doing the same for us. And I made a promo and it was only like 40 seconds. And I decided I wanted to do a little bit, beef it up a little bit more. I don't know. I'll let them know I made a new one. I'm not going to ask them to use it. If they want to,
Yeah.
they can. If not, whatever. So I spent all day making that. And then I also wanted to mention, speaking of Patreon, we have a new patron.
What? Nah. No, we
Uh-huh.
don't.
We do.
Do we know them?
Yeah, I have seen her. I think you know her. Her name is Amy Piersack. Maybe I'm pronouncing that wrong.
Yes, I love this.
Yeah,
What? She's a bitch.
Amy's.
I would have to text her.
Yeah.
She's a you guys, if you want the downest of down bitches, Amy is your girl. And
Oh.
she works a lot with a wildlife sanctuary. So she's got like
Oh.
pictures of her and wolves. And I'm like, I know she lives the life.
Oh my
She's
gosh.
got, I think she has four labs, 4 black labs.
Wow.
Yeah. So she's amazing. Oh, Amy, thank you.
Yes, thank you. She subscribed at the $5 level too. Big spender. So she will be able to join us for our online happy hours when we do these.
Yeah. And she, oh my gosh, she snaps me with like the most delicious drinks. Like the one she sent me tonight was like this wild berry cider.
Ooh.
I was like, please help. I will come and get that. Like it
Yeah.
looks so good.
Is she
Oh,
local? Does she live here?
Yeah, she
Oh.
lives in the metro. Yeah. So
Oh, good.
yeah, I just went out that not last weekend, but the weekend, maybe it was last weekend. I don't know. Time is a construct at this point. But we
Yes.
went to a brewery and I met her and her mom at the brewery and
Oh,
I
fun.
forgot how fun breweries are.
They are fun. I don't
They're
even like
so
beer, but they're fun.
I don't either, but this one had really good beer. And I got a free glass of beer because the original beer that I ordered, the whatever you put beer in to pull it from was out.
Oh.
And so they were like, well, do you want another one? I was like, heck yeah, I do. That was Insight Brewing in Minneapolis on Hennepin. Yeah.
Okay.
It was fun. It was really fun.
Cool.
Yes.
Well, then maybe we could
Amy.
do a happy hour, all in person too.
We should. Yeah. It'll be the 2 Amy's and me.
Yep. Yep.
And Melissa, she'll come too.
And Melissa. Yeah, she'll come.
Maybe she can read us some of her poetry or
Ooh.
not her or her from her
book?
podcast. Yeah.
Yep. That sounds fun. Okay. So then also one of the other things that we've been busy with this week is I sent out a newsletter.
I love it.
We do have on our website, there's a place where you can go and sign up for our newsletter. And then once a month, I will send out something that has all the episodes, like links to all the episodes that we've released since the last newsletter and little tidbits or extras or whatever we decide to put in there. And I just sent one out yesterday. Was that
I
yesterday?
think so. Yeah.
And so I'll be sure to put a link to that in the show notes and you can click on over there and sign up for the newsletter and stay in contact with us. If you
And
like.
it's great because, most newsletters are like 15 pages.
Oh,
this
okay.
one is so like concise, like
Just short.
1 page. Yeah.
Doesn't have too much, just a couple, just what's up, what's new.
Yeah.
For those who like maybe don't follow on social media or don't, whatever.
Don't snap us,
Just-
Harry.
Just
Snap us their
extras.
delicious looking beverages.
Oh, I did notice because I signed up for it through one of my other emails and I didn't get it and it was in my spam folder. So
check your spam.
Yeah, check your spam, put the activity continues at gmail.com in your contacts and that will help make sure it doesn't go to spam if that happens too. Happen if you sign up and you don't get anything, that's why. Let's see what else. TV shows. Are you watching anything new that we haven't talked about?
Ooh, have we talked about Downton Abbey?
Oh, you only mentioned last time that you liked it.
Oh,
I don't
yeah,
even know
so
if we kept that in.
So I've started. So each episode is like literally a mini movie. They're like an hour to an hour and a half long. And so my anxiety manifests in a lot of fun ways, but one fun way it manifests is I can't watch dramatic shows like in succession, like one right after the other, because I get extremely stressed out. Like I loved the show Revenge. I could only watch 1 or 2 episodes because I would physically be tense.
Well, I remember sitting with you when you came over one night and I wanted you to watch Orphan Black.
Oh, yes.
And we watched the first episode and you were like biting your fingernails and rocking back and forth. And I was like, maybe this isn't the show for Megan.
It is just in small dosage.
It's a good show. Yes.
Mhm.
So anyway,
I
Downton
need to
Abbey.
finish that actually because she was a phenomenal
Oh my God,
actress.
she's so good. Tatiana
Um,
Maslany. She's
yeah.
amazing.
But yeah, so I started season 3 and there's only 6 seasons, but Maggie Smith, we all
Oh my
must bow
God.
down to
Which
her
is a
because
weekend.
she I need to master the art of a veiled insult like Maggie Smith because she is
Yep.
chef's kiss.
Yep. Yep.
It is perfection.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah.
So I am watching, I think I talked about Severance last time. It's on Apple TV and
Oh,
it's
yeah, yeah,
Adam
yeah.
Scott. Yeah.
Yep,
So I'm
yep.
still obsessed with that. And it's so good
He's
that
such a good actor though,
he's
honestly.
and he's really, really good in it too. And Christopher Walken is in it. I mean,
What?
it's amazing. The people in it are all really good. The script is good. It's fucking weird. So it's just weird.
Like good weird or like
Weird,
trippy
good weird.
weird?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Like there's a scene of a guy sitting at his office and the slime comes off the wall. I mean, it's like weird stuff that you
Yeah.
like wouldn't expect. It's very dreamy and
Oh,
trippy and
okay.
I love it.
Nice.
And then I don't believe that we have talked about the show on sci-fi called Resident Alien.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Do you know who Alan Tudyk is?
Is he British?
I don't think so.
That name
No.
sounds familiar. Now I've
He
gotta
was in
look him up.
Firefly. He was in God, what was he just in?
Oh, yep, yep. He's the Yes, yes, yes. I know who he is. Yep.
Okay. So he plays an alien
Mhm.
who comes to this kind of smallish town in, I believe, Colorado,
Okay.
and he is trying to get his he was left there basically by his spaceship that crashed. And so he is trying to blend into society. He has taken on the look of somebody who lives in the town.
Mhm.
But he's trying to get home basically. And it's hilarious. It's weird. He is speaking of like actors who are just amazing.
Mhm.
He's so good in this. And the whole cast is really good. It's really fun. It's sweet. It's funny. It's
I'm gonna
got
have to check this
yeah,
out.
you'll have to look for it. It's got everything. It's on
Yeah.
Hulu. I think we're watching it on
Hulu.
Hulu.
Okay.
Uh, maybe it's Amazon. No, I think it's Hulu.
Nice.
Anyways,
Yeah,
it's really good.
he was the chicken in Moana.
Mm,
I don't know if you've seen Moana,
I
but he
did
was
not
the
see
chicken.
Moana. No.
That's cute.
No. And then the last recommendation I have,
Yeah.
I think you might like this one because do you remember when you and I were obsessed with The Circle?
Do I remember? It's still going on. I'm waiting for the next season.
Okay,
Yes.
so my friend Jody told me that I need to watch Love is Blind on
Oh, I've
Netflix.
seen that everywhere. Yes.
And I remember watching part of first season, or maybe whatever season was on before this one. I don't know if that was the first, but I remember watching a little bit of it and I was like, okay, this is dumb. I don't like any of the people. And I didn't watch it.
Mhm.
So Jody's been bugging me to watch it. And so I've been seeing these commercials for season 2.
Mhm.
I think it's season 2. And I'm like, fine, I guess I'll watch season 2. So I started watching it and I'm like, nope, I still don't like these people. They're all just fucking weird.
Yeah.
But then after like the second episode or like halfway through the second episode, I was like, all right, uncle, I kind of care.
Mhm.
So then I'm like texting her and I'm like going, this guy's a psychopath. And she's like, oh, he grows on you. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. So it's one of those, like, if you just want some like trashy shit to have on while
Mhm.
you're playing games on your phone, it's perfect.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Sometimes you just need that trashy shit in the
Yeah.
background.
Yeah. I mean, it makes me,
It's like a palate cleanser.
yes, exactly. I mean, you can only watch like, trippy, weird, cerebral shows for so long. You
Mhm.
you gotta have something else to like.
Oh, I've started rewatching Psych too, which
Oh,
I watched that back in the day, and
yep.
that's just a
I
funny,
love that
cute
show.
show. Yeah.
Resident Alien is a very similar vibe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think you would like that.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to. Oh yeah, the Alan Tudyk, he was Steve the Pirate in Dodgeball too.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, I don't know if you saw Dodgeball, but
I saw Dodgeball like when it came out. I haven't seen it
Mhm.
since. But all right, I suppose we should probably get going, huh?
Probably. I
Oh,
think
oh,
it
I wanted to also tell you
Oh,
that
that's right.
I listened the episode of
Which one did you listen to?
the very first one called the Watcher House, the
Mhm.
Watcher
Yeah,
of the
for
House.
Supernatural with Daisy Egan.
It's strange and unexplained.
Strange and Unexplained, that's right.
Yeah,
Supernatural is Ashley Flowers, which
right.
is over now, but
Yep. Yeah, so I listened to the first episode because I had listened to when you first told me about her, I listened
Mhm.
to a more current episode at
Yeah.
first, and then I went back to the beginning,
Mhm.
and I listened to the episode. I already knew the story. I was like, "Oh, I know
Mhm.
this one. This is one where
Mhm.
it's" I still think it's the person she doesn't think it is, but whatever. And I listened to it as I was going to bed, and then
Mhm.
I had the weirdest fucking dream about my house swiveled around to face
Really
the other
cool, though.
direction.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, except that it broke the fence because it
Oh,
swiveled
darn
and it
it.
was too big on one
Yeah.
side, broke the
Yeah.
fence, and I'm like, "I can't let the dogs out now." It was a really fucked up dream. I woke up and I'm like, "What the hell?" And it was snowing in my kitchen.
Of course.
That was part of it too, which I don't think had anything to do with that podcast, but I think I think it was because when she's so those of you who don't know the story, it's this couple moves into the or buys this home. They haven't moved in yet. They're
Oh,
renovating
it
it.
was so
And they keep getting letters in their mailbox dropped in, not mailed, saying that someone's watching the house. "Oh, I see you have 2 children. Great to have new
Mhm.
blood in these walls." And it's written by somebody who is quote unquote watching the house,
Mhm.
and the cops are trying to figure out who it is. And they think that it's the couple that lives behind them
Mhm.
because their backyards butt up against each other. And the cops had found 2 lawn chairs facing this house. So they thought that the couple that lived there was sitting in the lawn
Right.
chairs watching this house. But there was a certain part of it where one of the letters indicated that they were watching from the front because they could
Mhm.
see that the little girl was painting something on an easel that was on the front porch. And so I think my brain went, the only way the people in the back could have seen it is if the house swiveled around. And
Oh,
I think
and
that's
that's
why
where it went.
I
Yep.
dreamed that. Yeah.
Mhm.
So it was a good episode.
Yeah.
It
I
was
like
cool.
and she puts, like, just the right amount of, like, comedy in with it,
Yes.
and I just yeah, which is hard to do when you're the only
When you're talking to
one.
yourself.
Yeah,
Yep.
but she's good at it.
She's
I
very
like her
good.
a lot. Yeah. I mean, she's got my vote.
Yep. Yep. I like her a lot too. And she said she's a child actor.
Yeah.
And then she's a Tony Award winner. I'm like, "What?"
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
looked her up, of course, and yeah, she won a Tony for The Secret Garden
Mhm.
on
I
Broadway.
think I feel like she was she in Annie too, or did I just make that up? I thought
I
she
don't
was.
remember seeing that, but she could have been,
Oh,
yeah.
nah, you're probably right. I probably just make
I
shit up
didn't
in
read,
my
like, her
mind.
whole
You didn't take
biography, but
notes?
what?
You didn't take notes on it?
I didn't take notes. I was laying in bed. I was half asleep. Alright,
Okay.
we should get going. So
Yeah.
you are first
I'm
this week.
number 1. Number 1. Just kidding. Okay, so I did The Perfect Storm, and this was a doozy. Like, this one got me a little bit. There is a true crime portion, but I don't believe there's much to be found beyond what they say in the episode.
Okay.
And I don't think there's any other trigger warnings. So we have Amy the client. There's lots of
Oh
that's a
my gosh, so
very
many
popular
Amy's in this
name.
episode.
I know. Should be
Maybe
called
we
the
should
Amy
title it
episode.
something like that.
Yeah.
Something,
So
something,
many
and all the
Amy's.
Amy's.
Yes. Oh, I love it. Okay. Boom. There it is. So we have a newlywed mother of 2 who just moved into her husband's home. She moved in there 4 months ago. She's got married and she has 2 little kids, and she said it's pure hell living there. Phil, her husband,
Nothing to do with the fact that she has 2 little kids?
they're not
I'm
little.
just kidding.
They're 15 and 10.
Oh, I thought you
Uh,
said she was a new mother. Okay.
oh no, newlywed mother.
Newlywed. Got it, got it.
Yes. So Phil had the house before he met her, and we'll interview him later. And he said nothing started until they moved in. And so it's her husband, her 15-year-old son, Jarek, and her 10-year-old son, Matthias, who's also on the spectrum. So he's not really in the episode too much. So she said they hear things, doors will open and close. and they've seen shadows and apparitions, and it's now escalated to people are getting touched. And so she called Steve and Amy in because she needs to feel like her family is safe. She wants to make sure they're safe. And right now, she doesn't think they are.
Not.
Not when you're getting touched.
No.
Not fun for anybody. So Amy thinks that she and her older son, Jarek, who's 15, they have the most experiences. And she said Jarek will really get angry and it doesn't stop. And so he gets really angry. So they're very religious. And that's brought up a few times. And she shouted at it and she said, my God is a lot stronger than you are. And she said she feels like that has made it worse. That pissed it off.
I was gonna say that would certainly piss off a demon.
Yes.
Mhm.
And Amy doesn't say it's a demon, but when I've had my hauntings, part of me, and I've said something to the things before, like, go away or
Mhm.
like leave me alone. But at the same time, part of me is like, do I do that and acknowledge it and potentially make it
Mm.
stronger? Or do I, do that and like scare it, not scare it, but you know what I mean? Like realize that I know it's there and then it stops.
Yeah.
So I'm always torn in between that acknowledging and giving it power or, saying something to make it leave.
Does it usually work when you tell it to go away?
No, it doesn't.
Oh. I had when those we talked about last
Yeah.
episode when the
At your
whatever
old
it was
house?
screaming in our ears,
Mhm,
I told it to stop,
mhm,
and I was nice about it. I wasn't, like,
mhm.
going, "You fuckers," but I was like, "You know what? Can you just not do that? It's really annoying, and it's not doing anything." I said, "I bought you a piano. Go down and play the piano if you want to make noise."
And then it did, didn't it?
No, it did not play the piano. I
Oh,
dreamed that it did one time, and it was
you
a
dr
lucid
okay.
dream, so I thought it was real, and
Uh-huh,
I woke up
uh-huh,
scared shitless,
uh-huh.
but it wasn't. I woke up and it was not real.
Ooh,
But
thank you.
but yeah, so they did stop yelling in our ears. So,
Oh, good. They listened to you, they didn't
yeah,
listen to me. You know,
yes.
I don't know. So they go into the basement. It's always basement. As I record in my basement, though, it's fine.
In my
Amy
basement too.
yeah. Amy doesn't like it in the basement. She said she feels like they're being watched, and so Steve is like, "Even now," and she goes, "Yeah, even now I don't like it down here. I feel like I'm being watched." And she said the most terrifying part was when she was pushed down the stairs, and here's the timestamp, but I'll go back and figure it out. And it's really funny because Amy will come back and explain this, like, paranormally, but she'll
Right.
connect the dots.
Okay.
She said it sent her into the wall, and she doesn't know if it'll happen again, so, which obviously I would be scared too, like, I don't know
Yeah.
what's gonna happen. So then they go into the master bedroom, and Amy has seen a shadow figure by the bed looking at her, and she said it was tall, close to probably 6 feet tall. So
Thanks.
in her office, she's typing on her computer and doing some work. She said the next minute she was screaming and she was on the floor. Her son called 911. She
Oh my
said
god.
she had fallen and the chair had landed on top of her and she was unconscious briefly. And so her son had called 911,
Oh my
obviously.
god.
So she felt like the chair was flipped over with her in it. And that's another timestamp. And
Oh my
so Steve is really dubious because he's like, "Well, have you had fainting spells before?" And she's like,
I was
"Yeah,
gonna ask if she had seizures.
yep." And well, he didn't ask that. He asked if she had fainting spells, and
Mhm.
and she said, "Yeah, I've had fainting spells
Mm.
before." But she said she thinks it's paranormal, and Steve's like, "I don't know. Like this, I don't really, think this could be all a paranormal because
Right.
Steve."
Yep.
And she's like, "There wasn't any warning." She said she didn't feel weird, and she said it was with enough force that she landed across the room with her head against the wall.
God.
And so Steve is like, "Well, would you move? Like, what if the question he asks." And she said, "If the kids were in danger," she said she'd move tonight,
Yeah.
which, yeah.
Yep.
So then we talked to Phil, who's her husband, and he said he bought it before they met, never had any activity. Then he said he was sleeping at 3:30 in the morning. He was restless. He rolled over and looked over his shoulder, and he saw in the doorway a silhouette standing in the doorway. He said the eyes were clear. Everything else was black. He said
Ew.
he looked away and he looked back and it was gone.
Mhm.
He said he hears doors opening and closing, but he said he'll hear the bedroom door latch and then open again. So like there's
What?
no way it's not,
It's not the wind.
the wind or something,
Yep.
any of that. So then we talked to Jarek, who's the 15-year-old.
Mhm.
And he said his attitude changes a lot. He said out of nowhere, he'll just get really pissed for no reason, very angry at the whole world. And he said he thinks there's 3 shadow figures in the house, a taller one, and then 2 shorter childlike ones, and you'll see, he said, smaller things kind of peeking around a corner at you.
Mm, mm-mm.
He said he doesn't sleep very well, and he said he was watching TV one night and something came over and, like, slapped his leg, and he slaps his leg, and he said harder than that even.
Oh,
Yeah. He said he feels whatever is in this house doesn't like religion, which I don't know how much of that is him and how much of that is his mother.
yeah.
Maybe he is very religious, and I'm not saying that he can't be, but I'm also saying, kids are what's the word I'm looking for? They believe what you tell them to believe because 'cause
Oh,
they're
yeah,
kids. And,
yeah,
you're his mother, he's gonna believe her.
right.
So then, we gotta go the history of the house, and this is a really interesting history. So we go to a genealogist, not a gynecologist, Russ Pollock, and the original owners of the house ended up broke, alone, and insane. And that was a
Oh,
quote.
those are not good things to be, any of
Not good
them.
things to be any time, yet alone
Mm-mm,
altogether, all 3 at a
mm-mm.
time. So there were 2 gentlemen. The first was Henry Baldwin. He was a prominent judge, and that's the picture I sent you that you thought looked like a sketch.
Mhm.
He inherited the property in 1807. He then, and we're in, did I say where we were? Where are we?
I don't think you did.
I think we're in Ohio.
Okay,
I think we're in Ohio.
okay.
Whoopsies. So he's a prominent judge from Pittsburgh. And so he hired Moses Bigsby to manage the property. And then in 1808, he sold it to Moses. So Moses has a little bit of issues with it. In 1816, his daughter Lucy dies at the age of 27 from unknown causes.
Hmm.
And then in 1821, his wife Lucy dies at the age of 61, which to be 61 in 1821 is kind of a big deal.
Yeah,
So that's not pretty
that's not
unusual.
exactly young back then.
No, that's no. So and then, Steve was like, well, who went crazy first? His words, not mine. Steve, we don't use that word. So it was Paul Baldwin. So he was appointed to Congress in 1822, and then he stepped down shortly after taking his seat. He wants the property back, so he goes and he wants it back. Takes Bigsby to court, who he sold the property to, and Bigsby won. But it was a shallow victory for Bigsby because later that year, he was declared insane, and he had guardians appointed to oversee him and kind of watch him and make sure he's all right.
Oh, like Britney Spears?
Yep. But way not as worse as Britney Spears
Not as
because
bad, yeah.
they didn't have a snake for a family like
Right.
Britney Spears.
Poor
Poor,
child.
oh God, I
I
feel
shouldn't say child. She's 40 now. Do you know that?
yeah, but I'm glad she's free. Her whole family
Oh
are
my
just
God.
monsters.
Horrible.
Her father,
I know. The
mm,
worst.
the fucking worst. They used her.
Oh, God, yeah.
Oh,
You know how much money they made off of her?
yeah. Oh God. And she doesn't even get to keep it.
I know.
It's fine. We're
Ridiculous.
fine. That's a whole new podcast.
She's free now.
Thank God for her. Live
Mhm.
your life, girl. Live
Yeah.
it. Get
Yep.
pregnant if you want. Have another baby if you
Yeah.
want.
She wants to.
I know she does. It's bullshit she couldn't.
I know. Rant's
So
over.
yeah, sorry, rant's over. So he's got guardians to oversee him. In 1826, Bigsby escapes his guardians, runs away, falls into a river, and dies of pneumonia.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh.
Poor Bigsby. And then we just cut to Baldwin, who died, in Kenyon's favorite phrase, penniless and alone in a hotel in Philadelphia. So not a good end to either one of them.
Oh.
So then we get into a couple of different crimes. The first one is really, it's interesting. So we start off really strong. A woman kills her husband during a forced baptism next to Amy and Phil's property. And it's a bit of a misleading title because when I think that like the husband was baptizing the child and she didn't want it to be baptized and she like stabs him. That's not what happens.
No.
So Steve meets with a local pastor named Jason Allison, and they start talking about William McCoy. He joined the National Guard in 1917 before World War I. And then he, went to fight overseas, got bombed by the Germans, had some gas, bombed by gas, had to come home. How many times?
Not just the farts.
Just the Mars, the actual gas, not like
Right.
the toot gas. Okay. So he got tuberculosis due to lung damage. Got to bring that right down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he got tuberculosis, and he met Bertha Wilson, and that's the picture I sent you.
Okay.
Good old Bertha. And they got married. And then in 1925, his lungs basically failed, and the hospital sent him home to die, and they were like, Godspeed. They sent him to his foster parents. And so the foster parents, here's where it gets tricky. The foster parents called in a local pastor to baptize him. And this pastor does a sprinkling baptism where it's toot, 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 and then you're
Uh-huh.
baptized. Bertha wants a fully immersed baptism.
Oh, okay.
Fucking Bertha. She's like, we go bigger, we go home. So they do the immersion baptism, and like within minutes, he dies after the immersion baptism.
My God, how long do they hold him under there?
Long enough to clean his soul. There were never charges filed though, because the sheriff was like, well, I mean, he was gonna die. So
Oh, God.
we
We just helped him along a little bit.
just sped it up. It's fine. So he's like, this is really interesting because do you remember when we talked about Amy and Steve, and we talked about how, sometimes Amy will walk the neighborhood?
Yeah.
So Steve said, he's like, I don't know how wide Amy opens up. So he looks into the property and surrounding neighborhoods. And so he found a teenage kid who murdered his girlfriend near their property. So then we go to retired Captain Adam Moore. In 1953, a young girl was murdered less than a mile from the property. We've got Cynthia File, who's 18 years old, and Roy Schnagel, and he was convicted. They dated for about 2 years. September 16th of 1953, Cynthia's lifeless body was found. She was strangled. Her face was bludgeoned so much that she was unrecognizable.
Oh, no.
And then Roy confessed to the crime, and they surmised that he bludgeoned her to prevent recognition. There was never any motive that he told them. He said they argued a little, but nothing to denote that type of violence. Found guilty of second-degree murder. He served 10 years and was paroled, and he's still alive as of the air date of this episode and was living, it was somewhere within the state.
Wow.
So, yeah. So now we go to Amy, and so she gets there and she said a lady feels like it's hell for her to be there. Amy thinks that this person had money and nice things, but her husband made them move there and things didn't go well. This person said she's going to give him a taste of his own medicine. She's complaining about her mother-in-law. The older woman, like the mother-in-law, hates the daughter-in-law. She thinks the daughter-in-law didn't take care of the family. And this ghost is making her really anxious. And she saw her looking like a corpse. And so then she goes into the basement and she sees a bunch of people cowering in the corner, like hunched over, cowering. She said about 10 to 15.
Jeez.
Ghosts, yeah. She said the living would feel very uncomfortable. They'd feel fear, but it's from the ghost. It's not, from them. It's the ghosts are giving that off and the living are feeling it.
Okay.
Something runs down the stairs and down the stairs ahead of her. And so that kind of, was happening when she was going downstairs.
Okay.
So then they go upstairs and she said something is running around upstairs. Something very dark and fast. Something is dripping off of it. She said it looks like it crawled out of a swamp. There's just stuff hanging down from it.
Gross.
Yeah. And Matt asks if people could see it. And she said, oh, yeah, this is the thing they're encountering. So they go into the master bedroom. And she said this thing is in there most of the time. She said there's a woman with light hair being grabbed by the back of the neck. And then he's like, the thing like slams her head down.
Geez.
And Amy is like when somebody holds the back of your head and slam it into a desk. That's what the motion Amy's doing.
And Amy could feel that?
She could feel her neck being grabbed. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. She said if doors are closed, this thing would get frustrated and run back and forth, slamming into the doors, trying to get into the room and the doors. She said it can go into people's bodies a little bit. She didn't say jumping, but she said it could go into them, takes their energy, makes them do things, and picks a person for this person to get angry at. Like it's a very specified anger. and it plans a specific person. So then we walk into Jarek's room, and remember, Jarek is the 15-year-old who
Mhm.
the thing slammed his leg.
Oh,
And
right,
she
right.
walks in and she goes, "Ooh, this thing does not like this person." She said it's
Oh.
choking them.
Oh,
It's very, very focused on this person. She said something with this person is triggering it, triggering the thing, and it's
uh-huh.
making it want to kill this person.
Oh god.
And Matt asks, "Could it? So could it kill them?" And Amy said, "Yeah, I don't know how it hasn't already."
Oh my god.
Yeah. So she said, "The thing is from the house. So over time, the house has collected energy from people, and then it collected all of this energy and it spit out this entity." And then Matt goes like, "PK." And she said, "Yeah." And then she explains what PK was. And I don't quite remember it, but so you can throw it in there.
Okay.
And she said this entity was created by the house, which normally PK is created by a
By a
person. And she
person.
says,
Yep.
"I've never seen this before." And she said it's getting stronger and it's really concerning her. So
Hmm.
then we walk outside and she's seen the angry woman again. And she's telling Amy 1910, 1915, and 1925 are very important years for her. She thinks the daughter-in-law did bad things and is blaming the land for her actions and how she became. And the land brings out the worst in people is essentially what this ghost is trying to say. Like, whatever I did, it wasn't my fault. It was the land.
Mm.
So then she sees a girl getting beat up. She sees her getting hit in the head, and she said the brunette gets knocked down. And she said there's a male, and the girl getting beat up knows him. She said she's feeling choked. She feels pressure on her neck. And then she hears a voice saying, "I'm going to make you pay."
Oh,
Yeah. So we're not good. So
not
then
good.
then we go to Amy and Phil. So we're at the reveal now. And so Amy, the client, is very religious, and she said she doesn't think God is welcome here. And then Amy, the medium, said she met a female and she felt like it was hell for her. She said her husband made her come here. She was going to give him a taste of his own medicine, and Amy thinks that she killed him. And she said the years 1910, 1915, and 1925 are important years for her. And that's when Steve talks about 1925, because remember, that's when Willie McCoy got baptized and like
Right.
instantly died.
Right, right.
So Amy said she was a sociopath. Bertha was a sociopath. She kept showing Amy horrible things that she did during her life. So then they talk about the basement, and that's when Amy said that two people ran down the stairs, and Steve and Amy, the client, tell Amy, the medium, what happened, when Amy, the client, was pushed. And Amy thinks it's the woman ghost doing.
Oh,
She
okay.
doesn't think it's those things running down the stairs.
Okay.
So she said that's when she told me about the group of ghosts that she saw down there. She said the living would feel extreme fear, panic, anxiety. And then she said we go upstairs, everything changed upstairs. And she said it's really not. This thing is physical. She said it's moving quickly in the hallway. She said it looks like it came out of a swamp. It's very dark. Amy and her son Jarek see shadow figure moving back and forth down the hallway, just like pacing back and forth. She said they hear doors slamming, doorknobs rattling. Matthias, the younger son, 10-year-old, when he's sleeping, it puts its hand on his face.
Ugh,
And Amy, the client, is just, shaken up, which understandably. And she
yeah.
said Matthias is scared to death and won't sleep in his room.
Mm,
She said he's scared to death of his room.
poor kid.
Yeah. And so then Amy said this thing picks a person for people to get angry at.
Mhm,
And then that's when Amy and Phil are like, yeah, we argue about things that we've never argued about before.
mhm.
And she said Jarek is a lot less tolerant of his brother who's on the spectrum. And so,
Mm,
I'm sure before he was super tolerant and now he's
mhm.
just not anymore. She said when she went into Jarek's room, she said, "I feel really nervous about this." She said, "This thing wants to harm whoever is in that room without a doubt." And so that's again when the client is, which I don't blame her.
Yeah.
So then, Steve is like, "Well, you guys called me in to see if you can stay here. And for that, I turn it over to Amy." It's like, "Yes, you do, Steve." Awesome. So it's so active. So she said this case is cause for concern.
Mhm.
She said it's a semi functioning PK manifestation. And she thinks it's so active because she thinks that Jarek has PK abilities, and that's why
Oh.
it's so drawn to him.
I was gonna say he's at that age, that
Mhm.
teenage when that
Mhm.
stuff happens to kids.
Teenage angsty age,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yep.
She said because there is already the PK ability there, and then he came in with his PK ability, she said it created a perfect storm.
Mm.
And so Steve is like, "Well, what can they do?" And she said, "Honestly, you can't stay here." She said, "If you stay here, you will die,
Oh my
and
god.
or somebody will cause harm." She said, "If you take Jarek away, the attacks will cease because it's attached to the house."
Mhm.
She said, "You're not safe in this house." And she said, "This thing will always exist with this house unless you demolish the house."
Oh my
And
god.
so, yeah. And so at the end, they hired a real estate agent to sell their house, and the activity continues.
Oh,
That was I don't think it's very rare that I hear Amy tell people to leave. Usually she's got a solution, but
you gotta go.
not, and that's the drawings that I sent you.
Yep.
That that was the thing that's
Yeah,
on
yeah. Tell
Jarek.
me more about what that was.
Yes. So I have to pull it up.
That was the
Terrifying? Yes, it was. So that was the swamp thing. Um,
Okay, okay.
the
So the sketch is let me go
Yep, so
find it again.
it
Oops.
looks like a boy, like a teenage boy sleeping in a bed, and there's like a little, it looks almost like, for like a small child height, and it's very dark, and its
Yes.
hands look like very long fingers, and it looks like it's made out of twigs, just all out of like
Yep.
sticks and twigs. And one hand is on the boy's chest by his throat, and the other hand is on the upper part of his head, covering his eyes
Yeah.
while he's sleeping in bed.
And it looks to me like this thing either this thing has tiny, tiny legs or it is in the bed.
I think it's in the bed because they
Okay.
both were talking about how tall it is,
Okay, yeah, it
or
looked
it's shrunk down to be a better size to do what it's doing to Jarek.
okay. Either one of those things is terrifying.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't like either one of them.
Mm-mm.
So then the other sketch I sent you, that is the sketch of the angry woman that Amy encountered first when she first got there in the yard.
Okay.
And
And the
that
photo next to it
is
is
Bertha.
Bertha.
That's
Okay.
Bertha Wilson.
Okay.
And that's also the photo. I know the photo in that picture isn't very good, but I did send you the other two photos of her.
Okay. Yeah, I got that too.
And so yeah, that's her. And so
Okay.
it's without a doubt her. I mean, that even the collar and the button-up collar
Yep.
is her.
Yeah.
The hair's the same way, everything.
Yeah. It
So,
does look like her.
mhm, yeah.
Okay.
So
Wow.
that was a doozy of an episode. Like,
Yeah.
I just felt bad for that little kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
And he's the one in the bed, right?
yeah,
That's being
yep, the
smothered.
15-year-old is the one, well, yeah, I think
Oh,
so.
I think you said it was the little kid that was being the 10-year-old.
The little kid was being smothered, but I think that was Jarek in the picture.
Oh, okay.
I think
So
so.
it's doing that to both of them, I
Both of them.
guess. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it really hates Jarek. She said it hates him and it wants to
Oh,
kill him.
I wonder why.
I wonder if it's because he has abilities, and maybe this thing is
Mm.
thinking that it's gonna challenge his ability.
Well, and I wonder also the other kid you said is on the spectrum, right?
Mhm.
I wonder if he might have abilities too.
Yeah,
I
because
mean,
they didn't say where on the spectrum he is, like,
mhm,
if it's a severe case or
mhm.
more mild.
Wow.
Mhm.
Interesting.
That was a doozy of
I'll have to watch that one again.
it
I don't
was good,
remember
it
it.
was good. Yeah, it
That's
was really
usually
good.
when you do one, I'm like, I remember this or I remember
Mhm.
part of it. I don't remember anything about that one.
That was good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is where we're going to have our break and
Yes.
you're going to hear the promo for the podcast called Haunted or Hoax.
It's so good.
It
They're
is really
great.
good. They are, yes. I think if you like them, you'll like us. I mean, if you like
Mhm.
us, you'll like them
Yeah,
because it's kind of a similar tone
I
where,
thought that too.
yeah,
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
they trade off telling stories and the others, ask questions and stuff. The
Mhm.
other one asks questions. and they do both paranormal and true crimey kind of
Mhm,
stuff and the intersection of them. And yeah, I think it's a really fun podcast. I really like it. And
mhm.
so
Yeah, I do too.
you're gonna hear the promo.
Yay, promos.
Hi,
Hey,
I'm Kristen,
and I'm Jennifer.
and we are the hosts of Haunted or Hoax, a paranormal investigation podcast where we investigate the legends, not the ghosts.
Our locations range from houses down in Savannah, Georgia, but
Right.
like how
Beth-
many bodies is too many bodies, you know?
Probably
Are you putting a number on it?
farmsteads up in rural New York. He just runs out into the lake and drowns himself, a la Virginia Woolf.
To hotels in West Virginia.
And then the next morning, he told the front desk how noisy the people in 409 were, and the staff said he was the only one on that floor.
But
that
what
night.
if he really wasn't? Like, what if they were just messing with him?
Right.
Like, oh, it's Adam. Let's
Right.
fuck with him a little bit.
Plus, once a month, we get together and go on a ghost tour and bring the legends and history to you.
And having candy thrown off the shelves towards you sounds more like a teenager than a small child.
Yeah, because a small child would just stuff it right into their ghostly cheeks and run away.
Little
That's what
ghostly
I would do.
cheeks. Join us every Tuesday as we discuss the legends, history, and experiences from haunted locations.
Available wherever you listen to podcasts.
Bye.
Now it's Amy's turn.
Toot, toot, toot.
Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do.
That cracked me up so much when you did that last time, especially when I played it on high speed.
That was really fun. I like the
Amy's
drum
coming
roll.
first. Toot, toot, toot. Yeah, the drum roll was really good. And it, speed that up, I double and it's hysterical. Before I get started, I'm going to crack open my other, so it's not.
Just right in my face, why don't
Sorry.
you? Don't mind me, I've got my 45% ABV here, my little 30 milliliters.
Yeah, I'm not feeling anything from this, and I don't expect that I will.
It's not that, oh, it's 187 milliliters. It's not bad. Like, it's not a bad thing. It's just not Rebel.
Yeah, and I might like yours better because the Rebel is a little sweet for me.
Yeah, you would like this then because this is, you can definitely taste the alcohol in this.
Oh, yeah. Well, last weekend, we went to the Legion on Friday.
Mhm.
And it was kind of empty, and the bartender was just like making up drinks and giving them to Greg and
Nice.
I to try.
Yeah.
I'm like, thank God we only live a block away. But one of the things he gave me was Bailey's with whiskey in it. And I was like, well, isn't Bailey's
already with
already
whiskey?
whiskey?
Yeah, that's redundant.
So, but it was delicious. And
Was it?
so when we got home, or maybe it was even the next night, I made a drink with this Rebel
Uh-huh.
with a little whiskey in it.
How was it?
It was very good.
Was it? Yeah.
It was delicious.
Yum.
So it can be used as a mixer as well because it is only 5%
Yeah.
ABV. So
Don't mix anything with this. You might die.
yeah, I wouldn't do that. That's 18 or something. That's more than
12 and a half.
12 and a half. Oh, okay. Guess that's not
It's
that
like-
bad, but so
But it's like,
that's like
over-
wine. I mean,
it's like double what yours is in
Yes.
less amount.
yeah.
Not as
Huh.
good as wine, I'll tell you that. Give me a nice, good, solid wine.
I
Red,
do like
though.
the mocha latte better than the caramel pecan one. That one's
Yeah.
really
I
sweet.
liked the mocha. I mean, that's really the only one I've had, so I don't really have much to go off of, but
the vanilla
it was
latte is
good.
really good too.
is it? Okay.
Yep. The caramel pecan's the only one I don't really like. And there was a fourth flavor, but I don't remember what it was. Oh well. Anyway,
Salted
Okay.
caramel?
yes,
It
you're right.
was, yep.
Salted caramel. That was good. Okay, so my episode originally
It's
aired
probably
into
going to scare me.
it might.
Oh, crap.
I don't think that just some of the visuals, and by that I mean like what Amy explains that she saw were pretty disturbing.
Okay.
Okay, so this takes place in Sedona, Arizona,
Mm-hmm.
at a restaurant called Relics Restaurant.
I love that it rhymes, too.
I know. It used to be called Rainbow's End,
Oh.
and then they changed
Yeah.
it to Relics Restaurant. And I chose this one because it was recommended as one of the scarier ones by somebody in one of the Dead Files Facebook groups that I am in. So the client is Joe. He is the owner and operator of Relics Restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
He's owned it for 13 years and has never had any experiences.
Yeah.
He and Steve are sitting down and he goes, "So what kind of experiences have you had?" And the guy's like, "None." And Steve goes, "Not to be rude, but what the hell am I doing here?"
Oh, Steve, I love you so much.
I know. And the guy says that the employees and customers are both scared. They've all
Mhm.
seen stuff. And Joe believes that these things are happening and that experiences are genuine.
Has
And
he
I
had
thought,
any experiences, or is he just getting them like secondhand stories from his employees and customers?
yeah, he's never seen anything himself. And I thought, what a nice guy that doesn't just think that because he can't see something, it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually listening to people and being like, "Oh, just because I
Oh,
can't see it doesn't mean
yeah.
it's not real."
Shocking.
It's pretty refreshing.
Validating other people?
I
What?
know. What's up with that?
Who does that?
So he says that he has spent his life savings on the place and it would be devastating if Amy told him to leave.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So Amy's first impression is she says, "I really don't like it here. I really feel sick."
Mm.
And she said the living could develop ulcers, stomach problems, and she has feelings of being abandoned and unwanted.
Oh, Amy, I want you.
She hates everything in the room, the flooring, the bar, the tchotchkes. She said it all adds too much chaos to the environment.
Amy hates it, or she hates it on behalf of the spirits?
She hates it because of the physical things that are in the room are creating chaos for the spirits and like
Yep.
I think
Too much
she's
going
saying
on.
like it's amping them up or it's making
Okay.
it worse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She senses that people are probably falling down and getting burns and having accidents a lot.
Oof.
So then Steve is talking to Karen. Karen is spelled Karyn. I'm going to note that because that's coming up later.
Okay.
Not in the
Really?
episode, but in what I
Oh.
found later. She is Joe's business partner, and she's had a couple of things happen. Once, a cup flew off a shelf and went about 5 to 6 feet, bounced off a table, and crashed to the floor.
Holy cow.
Yeah, and Steve, always the worst case scenario guy, says that could have been a knife.
Thanks, Steve.
In the dining room, she said that something brushed up against her. And Steve asked her if it was male or female. And she said she didn't get a sense of its gender.
Mm-hmm.
And here's why. Go to Amy. She says, "There's a dog here, but it's not a good dog. It's a bad dog.
Bad dog.
Bad dog." She said the living would feel things brushing up against them and causing accidents to happen. And we'll get more on that dog in a minute.
Do we ever find out why it's a bad dog?
I don't find out why, but we find out a little bit more.
Okay.
Well, it's bad because it's bumping into people and making them have accidents.
Okay.
So then
True.
Steve is talking to Deborah. She is the office manager. She is a healer, a psychic, and a medium.
Oh.
And she said there was a time a while ago when people that worked there were very argumentative and irritable with each other. She said it went on for a long time, but she made it seem like it was just a period that at one point, like it's not happening anymore.
Mhm.
She once saw a man sitting at the table at one of the tables in the dining room. And she had walked by him and then turned back around to introduce herself, and he was gone. She described him to Steve and said that she could feel like he had a sense of ownership.
Mm.
And Steve said, "If you were to see a sketch or a photo, would you be able to identify him?" And she said, "Well, yes. In fact, I have." And there's his photo on the wall.
Hmm?
And his name is Henry Frank Gibson. He's the former owner, and she had seen the photo several days after seeing the apparition.
Mm.
So then you go to Amy. She sees a male in his 50s who feels like the owner. So I'm assuming that's Gibson.
Henry.
Yep. She notes that something weird is going on with the dead here. She said the living are sensitive and will feel their deaths and probably not understand what they're feeling.
What do you mean feel their deaths? Like feel when they died? residual energy
I
or
think feel, yes, what their deaths were like
oh, okay.
because they're sensitive. Like the one is a medium, you know?
Yeah. Interesting that there's a medium on and they still
Yes.
called Amy in.
Yeah. Maybe she's not a physical medium.
Or she's
Or
not as trained as Amy?
yeah. Or maybe she tried to do whatever she could and it didn't
Yeah.
work, or I don't know.
Interesting. I don't have we ever had a show where there's been a medium on other than Amy?
I don't think we've had anybody that called themselves a medium. We've had plenty of
Yeah.
sensitives,
Right.
but
Interesting.
I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking there must have been. Maybe there was one that we haven't covered, but granted, we haven't covered that many.
There's that. Yes,
If
that's
this
a
is our
this is our
eighth
8th
episode, so
episode.
this would be our 16th
7th.
show we'd
Yeah.
followed
Yeah.
or covered. Okay, so Steve is now speaking to Jane. She is an employee. She's been there for 5 years. She's a hostess. She said one time she sat 4 ladies at a table and then went into the kitchen. When she came back, there were only 3. And she asked them about the 4th one, and they said, "No, there's only 3 of us. There's only been 3 of
Uh,
us." She's like, I am positive I sat 4 women. So then she says one night she went into the bar and a large black triangular cape came flying at her, and then it disappeared.
a cape?
A cape, like a big black cloth.
Mm-mm. I don't like it.
Uh-uh. So
No,
then
thank you.
Amy says that this during her walk that
Yeah.
there are a group of beings here that are like smoke. They're not solid, you can see through them, and their eyes are lights. And they
That's
made her
that's crazy because mine was well, I guess mine was more of a no, not the same thing. Never mind.
never mind.
Did you guys like that you took that journey with me as I
Yeah.
worked it out in my mind?
It helps.
It does.
So these smoky beings made her feel uncomfortable. And this is the part that I love, and I'll put the sound clip in. She walks into a room and screams. Like I literally jumped because I was not expecting Amy to scream.
Did she
She-
like blood curdlingly scream or
It was a good scream. It was
Yeah.
I wouldn't say blood curdling, but she was like, and yeah. So she explains because Matt's like, the fuck?
yeah.
And she explains
Same,
that
Matt. Same.
she explains that these things are elementals.
What does that
They're-
mean?
They are entities created. I'm glad you asked. They are entities created by
I had a
nature.
sketch done. Just kidding. I'm sorry.
Well, hang on. They are created by nature and not necessarily dangerous, but these ones are. These particular ones are a threat.
Okay.
Okay, so now Steve is talking to Heather. She is a former employee. She was a hostess and a server. She feels anxiety. She's sensitive. She feels anxiety, tightness. She can hear and feel energies around her. She's very
Mhm.
sensitive to energy.
Mhm.
She was in the bar one time and there was a man who was in her way. And she was trying to she had her tray and was trying to maneuver around him, and then he just disappeared. And Steve asked her to describe him, and she described him as being gruff looking and rough, and he was wearing a plaid shirt and he was dirty. And she said she also saw him in the kitchen. And Steve makes his comment. He goes, I don't know if it's because this is sort of a woo-woo town or whatever, but y'all are like, there's ghosts here.
I wonder if there seems to be a lot of people with abilities. I wonder if they're drawn to this place.
Oh, could be. Yeah, very well could be. But the woman
Steve has
responds
such a
with,
way
well,
of
yeah,
living.
that's just what goes on here. Like,
Yeah.
Another day.
Another
Same
day,
life.
another ghost. You know what I mean?
Yep. So Heather also talks about seeing dead people standing in the room amidst the diners. She said there's like 5 to 12 of them. And she tries to maneuver around them, and then they're not there.
Yeah.
She can't. They look real to her. They don't
Yeah.
look like ghosts. So we go back to Amy, and she is extremely creeped out. And she says everyone who has died here is set up like mannequins. And we all know that It's never a mannequin.
It's never a mannequin.
Mm.
Don't go jogging.
No. There's people in the chairs, but they're dead. Their physical bodies are here, and the soul is stuck in the body, and they're propped up like mannequins.
Oh,
They
what?
can't move or talk. I know.
Oh my God.
I'm just picturing like a dead person tea party,
Uh-huh.
like because they're sitting in chairs
Yeah,
and
but I'm picturing like their eyes moving because they're stuck.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. And then she says, "This is creepy. I don't like it."
me neither, Amy. I
Nope.
don't like it either.
Nope. Steve's now investigating in town, and he had heard about a murder about a guy that died in the parking lot. So he finds the nephew of
Ooh,
this
good
man.
job, Steve.
I know. His name is George Nelson, not the nephew. I don't know the nephew's name. It is considered an open case still. They still have not solved this case. But on May 25th, 1957, the restaurant was called Rainbow's End,
Oh,
and George Nelson was with two of his buddies and two women. They were in a car leaving the place. They had just been there having drinks for the night, and they picked up these two ladies.
Sure.
George is in the passenger seat. His friend is driving, and another friend is in the back with the ladies. The friend who was driving was married, and a guy in the back seat had a girlfriend.
cheaters never prosper.
And they passed by a car that was sitting at the side of the road, and the car begins to follow them. George says to the guy in the back seat, "You better duck down. Your girlfriend's following us." And then boom, gunshot hits George in the head, and there's total chaos. He was
Obviously.
what?
I said obviously. Yeah.
Yeah. His friend who was driving just turned around and went back to the restaurant because that's probably the closest,
Mm-hmm.
where there would be any kind of help.
Yeah.
Because this is in a pretty rural area, I think. So he gets back to the restaurant and George dies in the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
I did do some research on this and I found a little bit of stuff, nothing really, not much, but I did find a couple other details. For example, the top of his head was blown off,
Holy shit.
like above the eyebrows.
That's a big gun.
And he was still alive when they drove back to the parking lot.
Very
So-
JFK.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Very JFK.
Yeah. So the girlfriend was never even questioned about the shooting.
Of course not.
And
She's a woman. She couldn't do that.
couldn't have been her. And officially this murder is still unsolved. So then we go to Amy. She sees some sort of gunfight. Someone got shot with a shotgun. He's a guy, he's young, and it takes him a while to die.
Oh.
She can feel it in her head, and she said it hurts so bad, and she can't get away from him. She's in pain, and she's trying to separate from him, and she can't.
Mm-hmm. Bless her.
Yeah. So Steve meets with the county sheriff, Scott Mashe,
Scott.
Mashe, who tells him about a local guy who was run over by a car near the property in 2006. This guy used to be a regular at the restaurant. His name is Randy Lee Austin. He was a drifter.
I wonder if I'm related to him.
Oh, I wonder.
My last name used to be Austin.
Yep.
Hope not.
So he was a drifter on April 4th of 2006. He was at Relics and he left at dark. He was seen crossing the street and people were watching him from the windows. And he just walked across the street, laid down in the middle of the street, face down, and was run over by a car.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What?
Yep. And then
Wow.
we go to Amy and she says, "Oh, there's another death here. Something about a car accident." She said this person fucked up their back really badly. And she sees the dog here in relation to this.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, here's where we find out more about this dog. She said, if the living encounter the dog, it can be like a harbinger of death. Once they've interacted with the dog, they are marked to die.
Really?
Yep.
Ooh.
So now I'm worried about Karen,
Yeah.
who
Bumped
said-
into the dog.
yeah.
Oh.
So Amy says that some people who start their dying process here are either stuck in their death state or turn into these mannequin type things.
Oh no. I hope we find out how to free these mannequin things.
Yeah. Sort of.
Okay.
So Steve says, and I've heard him say this before, you can pretty much throw a dart at the map of the US and hit a spot where the Native Americans got the shaft.
He's not wrong.
No, he's not wrong. So Steve meets with Melissa Bowersock, an author, to talk about what she called the removal. So there were two tribes here back in the mid 1400s, the Apache and the Yavapai. In 1872, there was the Skeleton Cave Massacre. So American soldiers.
That sounds fun.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
American soldiers were told to round up all the natives and bring them to another reservation. But there were some Apaches holed up in a cave, and when they were found, they fought back.
Obviously.
The soldiers killed 75 of them and captured another 30. And then she shows him a photo of, let me see. I don't think I still have it on my phone. Hang on.
Okay.
I have to open up WhatsApp on my computer so I can.
I
got the sniffles. So I can send you the picture.
How is it only Thursday today?
Oh, I feel like this week has gone super fast. Oh, I had the folder open. What am I thinking? What was I thinking?
You've had too many rebels.
Yes. Only had 1.5.
Slow down.
Not even a half.
Just kidding. I'm just teasing.
I am a professional. I can hold more than that.
True story.
True. Okay. Episode 8. Okay, so I am going to send you now a picture of, I can't remember what I was going to send you. Oh, this is a picture of the skeleton, why that's called the skeleton cave. It is a picture of a bunch of skeletons when they found these bodies that were, I guess, when they found the skeletons of all these dead Native Americans. Yeah, it's creepy.
Wow. That is super creepy.
Yeah. It looks like they're posed even.
I was just going to say, like, they look posed. They don't look like they died that way.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't put it past the Americans back then to have posed them that way.
Yeah, but that would seem like a lot of work. They have to wait for them to die and decay and then go back and pose them. That seems weird.
What if they posed? You think they wouldn't have decomposed like that if they posed them like that when they were dead?
Well, I suppose they could have posed them like that alive.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I have no knowledge.
It's hard to tell.
Bodies.
I don't know. Listeners, check out our socials.
It just seems like that's something that soldiers would have done back then to further, like, like dishonor.
Disrespect.
Yeah, disrespect them.
For sure. Yeah, the woman, she did say that whites didn't see she called them Indians, but the whites didn't see them as humans.
No, they didn't.
So then we go back to Amy. She says a Native American came up to her and she saw a lot of people not being able to rest. They're unhappy and there's lots of crying. There was a time when the dead were happy, but then at some point they were awakened and then now they're unhappy and crying. Matt asked her how long ago and she said it was dirt. Which that was a funny way to answer that. She meant like there was no building here or anything.
Yeah.
It was just land, whatever. It was dirt.
It was dirt, Matt. Obviously.
She said there's so much illness and mental anguish, and she feels panic and chaos.
Bless
the
her.
living people could form disorders. Like she's like
Like
real
mental
disorders,
Yeah.
like anxiety,
Yeah.
esophagus issues, stomach issues.
Wow.
So then we go to the sketch and she is doing a sketch of the mannequin people.
Ooh, I don't like that. I don't like it. Mhm.
So here we are at the reveal. It is Joe, Deborah, and Heather. And Joe is the owner. Deborah and Heather Deborah still works there. Heather used to work there.
Okay.
Heather.
Well, it's a 3-person. They usually only do 2.
Yeah. Amy says there's a lot of chaotic energy, specifically in the wood flooring, that it's a real problem, and the other random objects. She said the bar is bad and the objects that are on display in the back room. And I'm like, why can she see objects that are on display in the back room? I
Yeah.
thought all that stuff was like cleared out.
Away or hidden or something.
But now that I'm thinking about it, I don't recall them ever saying anything about going in and clearing the place.
It's tough though. I know they've talked about it before with restaurants and public places because it's really tough.
There's
But
so
you'd
much
think,
stuff on the walls
yeah,
too. It'd be really hard to do everything.
you'd think they'd at least do some of it,
Yeah.
unless it was stuff that wouldn't give her any clues,
Yeah.
like little tchotchke things and not
Yeah.
necessarily like photos or.
Right. And maybe it, maybe that, I mean, it obviously she got something from those objects,
Mm-hmm.
but it's probably a good thing that they were there, because if they weren't, she wouldn't have seen, she would have wondered where all the chaos is coming from. Or maybe the
Right.
chaos would be there if the objects were removed.
Yeah. Oh,
So
good point.
anyway, she explains that the thing causing the accidents is this dog. And I really wish that she had sketched the dog, because I really
I
wanted to see
know.
that. But she said if they see or hear the dog, the person might die. It's not a cause, but it foretells death. Then she talks about the younger male in the bar who was shot, and it took some time to die. So I
Mm-hmm.
assume that's George
Yep.
in the car.
Yep.
Amy says she felt another death in the kitchen, and she mentions the car accident. She mentions that her back hurt. So I'm guessing that's the guy that
Probably
got run over.
run over. Yeah.
Uh-huh. If it's him, she said it's unfortunate because he's stuck in his death state. So then Steve tells the story of the regular who laid down in the road and was run over, and she thinks it could be him.
Mm-hmm.
And she said it's really sad if it is.
Mm-hmm. I wonder what caused him to do that. Like, did something come over him and do
Well,
it, or
it's funny. Steve asked that to the man who was telling him the story. I guess it was the sheriff.
Mhm.
And the sheriff just said, well, he was an alcoholic.
But there are
Like,
lots
"Eh,
of
it doesn't-
alcohol.
that's
That's not
not
an
good enough."
excuse.
No, that's not good enough.
There are lots of alcoholics that get drunk and don't go and lay in the middle of the road to get run over by a car.
Exactly. So Amy talks about the front dining room, and she explains about the smoky gray black things with lights for eyes. And they replay the part where she screams,
Mhm.
because that's when she went and saw them.
Mhm.
She
Plus,
tells
that's
them
just
about,
good TV.
yeah, she tells them about how these entities are elementals and they have been collecting people. And there's about 10 of them. She said over the years they've acquired these, and the dead people are trapped here. And then Heather tells them about the people that she's seen in the dining room.
Mhm.
And then Amy says, well, I had a sketch done.
Oh, imagine that, Amy.
Imagine that. Okay, so here's the sketch. And it is a little hard to see. I have to try to get a better picture of this before I post it. But so you can see there's 3
Ooh,
big
what?
beings, right? With each of them with 2 eyes.
Hang on.
So when I
I
first looked
see.
at it, I thought that the white streaks were the beings,
Yeah.
but they're not. They're they're 3 smoky beings, 3 black, and then they have the eyes, and then the things that are coming out the eyes are just to show that they're lights.
I don't. Oh. Oh, those. Oh.
Yeah, once you know what you're looking at, it's pretty creepy.
I thought those were. I don't.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
their
like it.
eyes.
I don't like it.
And then all those people sitting in the chairs are the dolls, the mannequins. So Steve asks
That's terrifying.
Steve asks what the smoky figures want with the dead people, and Amy says they're collecting them because they think they're beautiful and they treat them like dolls. She thinks it's highly likely that the dolls are the people that they've spoken about, the drifter that was run
Mhm.
over and the man who was shot in the head.
Mm-hmm.
One of the women is really worried about the souls that are stuck here and wants it addressed. And then Amy says, it's bad. It's really bad.
Great.
Yeah. So on to suggestions. Amy says the entire location needs to be cleaned once per month for 6 months to remove all the residual energy that has been collected.
Cleaned by like a spiritual cleaning or like
I think
physical
she just
cleaning?
meant clean.
Yeah.
You know, She didn't really, because I've heard her say that before in other cases, and they're like, "We mean like soap and water?" And she's like, "Yeah."
That's
They
pretty
didn't.
bad that you have to have a medium come in and tell you have to clean.
You better clean this shit up.
Better fucking clean this shit up, Deborah.
So then she says a shaman and a medium who are willing to work together must come in. The shaman will reach out to the elementals to appease them.
Mhm.
Then the medium will help the dead to move on. Some might be confused and will need assistance, and then the dog will go too. The shaman will not get rid of the smoky people, but will send a clear message or intention that they are seen and respected, and they will stay, but not trap any more souls.
Good.
So then poor Joe goes, "So what you're telling me is they'll leave, but these guys are still here, the ones with the scary eyes shooting down in my dining room?" And Amy's like, "Yep,
Yeah, but nobody else can really see them, buddy.
yeah." And he can't see him, so I don't know why he
No.
cares.
Why do you care?
And then once a week, they have to make an offering to the elementals. She suggested they go to a metaphysical store, and whatever object they're pulled to, they should bring it back and offer it to the elementals. And Joe says he's willing to try it. Absolutely. It's worth it.
Good.
So the update is that Joe is searching for a medium and a shaman, and the activity continues.
Well, at least he's open.
Yeah. So I did some research on this property to see what was going on with it.
Mhm.
According to Open Table, the restaurant is permanently closed. The restaurant or the Open Table site does say that someone named Karen DeSalvo is the co-owner and chef. So then I searched Karen DeSalvo, and
Mhm.
I see a Karen DeSalvo with an E,
Mhm.
and it's like somebody who was like a politician. It's not her.
Oh, okay.
So then I looked it up, and there is still a website for this restaurant.
Really? Okay.
And so I sent them an email asking if they had anything.
Updated?
Yeah, if they had any updates or anything I could tell our listeners.
What'd they say? Anything?
They have said nothing so far. I've heard nothing back.
Rude.
So I found it on Zillow, and it is estimated, the estimated price is $1.65 million. It's a
Oh,
really
wow.
cool property.
Yeah.
The last time, so this is kind of odd, on October 17th, 2013, it was listed for sale
Mm.
at 2.7 million. And the next day the listing was removed.
Really?
So then I did a search on the property info, and it is owned by someone named Joe
Mhm.
with a secondary owner named Karen DeSalvo.
Really?
So Joe and Karen have the same last name, but she has a hyphenated last name.
Huh.
So I don't know if she's his wife or
Yeah.
what, but apparently he still owns it. And yeah, along with Karen.
Really?
But it's not open, according to Open Table. And the
Yeah.
website, I really couldn't tell from the website if it was open or not. Really, what didn't really indicate. I mean, it kind of made it sound like it was open, but it didn't say like, call for reservations or anything like that. So I don't think it's actually open right now.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, what a story. I
Yep.
don't like your drawings.
I know the idea that these dead people are collected and treated like dolls set around a table.
That's
and stuff.
terrible.
Can you imagine sitting at one of those tables and like the medium can see that you're like sitting on a ghost person?
Mhm. Mhm.
That's creepy.
Yeah. And
Very
can the
creepy.
ghost feel you sitting on them?
I don't know.
Oh my god, what if I'm sitting on a ghost now? I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You know,
Oof. Okay.
so
Okay.
okay. Cool.
All right. Bye.
See you. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Activity Continues podcast. We really appreciate you giving us your ears for a bit. Please reach out if you have a suggestion for which episode of The Dead Files we should cover next, or if you have a spooky story you'd like us to share on the show. We can be reached at theactivitycontinues@gmail.com or through our website or any of our socials. Links are all in the description of the show. Please feel free to drop us a note and say hi. And join us next time when The Activity continues. The Activity Continues is produced by me, Amy, at Collected Sounds Media and is part of the independent Collected Sounds Podcast Network. We are also proud members of the Boo Pod network of super cool podcasts.
Nailed it.